Hey there, welcome in. I'm Jonathan Acosta, joined here by our WGRZ Bills insider, Vic Carucci. As training camp starting to get closer and closer, we're going to start taking a look at some of the top storylines for the Bills as they approach their time over at St. John Fisher University. And Vic, let's start off on the offense. This is going to be the first training camp for OC Joe Brady in that role. Why do you think this is such a pivotal thing to be looking out for the Bills as we approach their time in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, now that the offense is fully in his hands, it's going to be so interesting to see how these practices unfold. And this will be different than what was happening in the OTAs. This is more intensified, more game plan specific, and really targeting that opener in terms of how they're installing the offense. And you'll get a feel for what this offense will look like now that it is all about Joe Brady, no longer the Ken Dorsey feel to it.
And that's something that we talked about right during OTAs, where you kind of, and even rookie minicamp, where you see guys make plays in drills and whatnot, but you say you're not going to really get a feel for this offense until training camp. And that includes personnel, right? We saw during the season, once Joe Brady took over, the increase in the usage for example, like a guy like James Cook. That's kind of the stuff we're looking out for in training camp and seeing who guys Joe Brady really envisions having a crucial part in the offense this season.
In those open practices, of course, there will be things that won't be shown because of the competitive eyes that are out there. But we will see some, I think, samplings of how this offense is going to function. Who are some of the key players? James Cook could be a guy that I think will look a bit different, not only because of his physical, mental development at this stage of his young career, but also in an offense that I think is going to emphasize power. And we're also going to see how the collection of receivers, these big guys that they brought in, who have the ability to not only physically win their battles, those one-on-one matchups, those balls that are contested passes, but also blocking downfield, also how they're involved in the run game. And I think that's going to be quite noticeable in this training camp.
One other thing, especially with training camp, right, just the structure, it's a grueling process for these players as they get ready for kind of the physicality of the season. And something we've heard a lot about with Joe Brady, dating back to his interim days from last season, is the energy he brings to practices. Is that something maybe to keep an eye out for? Can he keep those energy levels elevated for an offense that's going through these grueling practices in training camp?
That's going to be a big difference from what we saw a year ago. Now, Ken Dorsey absolutely brought energy and enthusiasm, but it's going to be at a different level because Joe Brady's the guy in charge. You didn't really see or feel much of that when he wasn't the offensive coordinator. Now that he is running the show, putting his stamp on it, yes, I think it'll be highly energized, highly competitive. And remember, he's got so many new pieces with which to work here that all of them are going to get that feel for what this training camp is or this offense is like with Joe Brady pushing the buttons.
And I want to touch on something you said right there, his stamp on this offense, because during OTAs and minicamp, we heard something to the effect of, I think we heard it from Dawson Knox, about how it's more so tweaks in the system right now than wholesale changes or him really putting his spin on things. Do you think we really get to see more of that spin when we get to St. John Fisher?
There absolutely is going to be a greater sense of what this offense will feel like under Joe Brady. Now, it can't be wholesale changes because it's the same quarterback, and the talent level that's been brought in, or the prototype of the players that are part of the Josh Allen offense, all of that has to fit. And Joe Brady is not about to turn around and say, we're going to do things entirely different than have been done because this is the way I want to do them. No, Joe Brady's got to do it the way it fits for Josh Allen, for those complementary parts. And again, Dawson Knox still part of this team. Other players like James Cook, some of the offensive linemen are there, even though there's been some big change on the O-line. But you don't go through and throw away everything that's been done or try to reteach everything. That would be I think, a mistake, and I don't think he will do that. However, he can blend the way he wants it done, his vision, with what already exists.
All righty, keep it tuned here on WGRZ.com, our WGRZ YouTube page, as we continue to look ahead to the biggest storylines for the Bills as they get set to start training camp over in Pittsford on July 24th.